AITAH for still pretending to be friends with someone I don't like. I am a senior in high school at a boarding school, and I've been pretending to be friends with someone for the past 4 years, and I genuinely cannot stand her. I go to a very small school with fewer than 200 people, so everyone knows everyone. In the very beginning of my freshman year, there were only about 12 other freshman girls, so we all tried to be really close with each other. There were only 2 dorm houses. They were putting freshman girls in that year. So half of us were in one dorm house, and half were in another on the opposite side of campus. The freshmen in my dorm house got along great, and we are all really close to this day. But the freshmen in the other dorm house got in fights all the time and ended up hating each other. There was one girl in the other dorm, I'll call her Kiara, who started hanging out with me and my roommates a lot. I don't mean to be rude, but she is extremely dumb. Our school is for kids with learning difficulties like ADHD and dyslexia, so we are all a little special, but we are still pretty good students for the most part, and have common sense. But Kiara is very stupid, and lacks social awareness and basic common sense. Eventually, my roommates started finding her annoying. Rightfully so. But I felt bad that she had no other friends and kept hanging out with her. She ended up being in my dorm a lot because she didn't get along with her roommate. One night, we were watching a movie in my room when she got a call from her roommate saying that she needed to come back to the dorm because they needed to have a talk. Kiara started freaking out and went back to her dorm. The next morning, I got a text from her that she was coming to my dorm to talk to me and my roommates. When she came in, she immediately started crying. It took a while for her to calm down. Then she told us that her roommate, let's call her Jane, had accused her of self-pleasuring while Jane was in the room with her. She was extremely upset that Jane had falsely accused her of something, and this made her dislike her roommate even further. I asked her if she wasn't doing that. Why wouldn't she just explain to Jane that that didn't happen? This made her even more upset, and she seemed not to understand why it could even suggest that, and that Jane falsely accusing her of something was a horrible thing to do. I believed Kiara when she said she wasn't doing what she had been accused of, but I understood that Jane would feel uncomfortable if Kiara was doing that, and that she probably had a reason to believe she was. I thought that Kiara was overreacting to the situation and that if she had been doing that, then she would be in the wrong. Kiara slept in my dorm on an air mattress for a night, then Jane moved to a different dorm. A few weeks later, Kiara told me that she was suing Jane for sexual harassment. I asked her how she had sexually harassed her, and she said that Jane had recorded her while she was self-pleasuring. I was confused because I had thought Kiara didn't actually do that. Then she told me that she actually did do it, but that she thought Jane was still in the wrong. After she told me this, I concluded that Kiara was in the wrong for doing that, and that Jane was in the wrong for recording her. The lawsuit never went through, and neither of them ended up suing each other. After Thanksgiving break, Kiara got a new roommate, and literally the same thing happened. Her new roommate, Anna, had reported the same thing that Jane had reported her for. After this, people started believing that Jane and Kiara had lost most of their friends. I tried distancing myself from her, but it was very difficult because we were in most of the same classes. Jane ended up dropping out of school in January of that year for other reasons. After the second incident with Anna, Kiara moved dorms. She lived in a room that was a double connected to a single by an archway with a curtain. Kiara lived in the double part of the room by herself, and her new roommate, Sarah, lived in the single section. Kiara and I stopped hanging out as much after the first trimester because our classes had changed, and we had no classes together anymore. So I was able to distance myself from her more easily. Eventually, she became very cold towards me, and whenever I said hi to her, she didn't say hi back. I'm the kind of person who'll still be nice to people if I don't like them. But Kiara is not like that at all. She is very confrontational and will make it very clear if she doesn't like someone. At the end of freshman year, I decided that I was going to transfer schools, and when she found this out, she started hanging out with me again. When the summer started, she texted me all the time that I was her closest friend and how she wished we lived near each other. I live in Colorado, and she lives in Connecticut, the same state our school is in. So luckily, we were not able to visit each other over the summer. At the end of the year, I decided not to transfer and go back to the school. When Kiara figured this out, she decided that I was her best friend and that we were going to spend a lot of time together. Since we were sophomores, we could request which dorm house to be in. Kiara and I were put in separate dorms. I was put in my first dorm choice, but Kiara was not. She was very upset and said the school had screwed her over by putting her in that dorm. She was given a single, for obvious reasons. The dorm she was put in housed a lot of the artsy kids, and Kiara thought they were weird and didn't like them. I reminded Kiara that I was also an art kid. I've been doing art and theater my whole life, but she said it was okay for me because I wasn't weird. The dorm she was in also happened to house a lot of LGBTQ+ kids, which Kiara also had an issue with. I know that Kiara isn't consciously homophobic or transphobic, but her family is very religious and conservative, so I wonder if that has influenced her. She said she didn't want to be in the gay dorm and was very mean to the kids she thought were weird. I have a big issue with people who are mean to kids just because they find them annoying. This is when I started realizing that Kiara was a bad person. We still hung out a lot, but every time I didn't want to hang out with her or hung out with someone else, she got very jealous. She started saying that my other friends were stealing me from her, and this made me very uncomfortable. I started talking about my issues with her to my friends, and I genuinely felt awful talking about her behind her back. But I didn't know how to stop being friends with her. We made it through sophomore year with her telling everyone we were best friends, but I was honestly embarrassed to be so closely associated with her. Most of my friends graduated that year, and Kiara told me that their leaving would make more room for her to hang out with me. In junior year, we were both student leaders and lived in the same dorm. People were shocked that she was given the role of student leader, and I was dreading being in the same dorm as her. She came crying to me every time somebody wasn't nice to her. When her basketball coach gave her critiques, she took them personally and believed that her basketball coach was a bad person. Everybody at the school had an issue with her because she just wasn't nice to people, even those she considered her friends. She genuinely believed that she had no problems, that she was a victim, and that everyone else hated her because they were jealous. Right before junior year started, I decided to cut contact with my abusive father, who was the primary source of income in my family. My father stopped giving me money to spend at school, but the court made him pay for my tuition. The kids at my school are very, very rich, and I felt left out because I couldn't afford to buy myself things that others could. Even though Kiara knew I didn't have much money to spend, she constantly asked me to buy her clothes and food. And when I said I couldn't afford it, she would judge me and call me poor. Even though she wasn't nice to me, she still considered me her ultimate best friend because I was nice to her for some reason. At the end of that year, when they were choosing student leaders for this year, a lot of us got cut from our positions for no reason. But Kiara was not cut. People were shocked that she got student leader again because the school said that they were being extra selective for student leaders that year. That summer, Kiara applied for a counseling job at her old summer camp. When she did not get the job, she freaked out and said that they were discriminating against her for her learning disability. She cried to me about this every week over the phone, and I realized that she dealt with rejection horribly, and that senior year was going to be difficult because she was applying to many prestigious film schools with no film experience. And when she gets rejected, she's going to come crying to me. Over the summer, my mom emailed the dean of housing asking that Kiara and I not be put in the same dorm. Luckily, we were not put in the same dorm, but the dorm I was put in was full of new students who hated each other. But I still talked to a lot of the freshmen and found out that Kiara was being very mean to all of them during orientation. I was not surprised by this. So I talked to Kiara and tried to subtly bring up the issue to her without triggering her. She didn't really understand what I was saying. I talked to the freshmen she was being mean to and suggested that they stay away from her. About a month ago, I decided to switch dorms because there was so much fighting in mine, and I've been dealing with mental health issues and really needed to be in a quiet dorm. The only dorm I could switch into was Kiara's dorm. I moved anyway because I was good friends with everyone else in the dorm, and I hoped I could avoid her. That was a couple of weeks ago, but I genuinely feel horrible for pretending to be her friend. I understand that she is not a good person, but she has told me that she would unlive herself if I weren't her friend. I have talked to some of the deans about her, but nothing has happened. I have a pretty significant social anxiety disorder, so confrontation is extremely difficult for me. But even if I were to confront her, I don't know what I would say. I feel like a horrible person for deceiving her all these years. But she plans to stay friends with me after graduation, and I genuinely cannot deal with her. I know that pretending to be someone's friend while talking badly about them behind their back is the wrong thing to do. But I'm worried about what would happen to her if I stopped being her friend, because I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's nice to her.